Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters. I'm your host, Mitch. Glad to have you here. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about Commander on a budget. Today we have an episode of Commander's 2 Cents. On episodes like these, I give you my own personal take on topics about the format in general and current news. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. And while you're at it, subscribe and review our podcast as well. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. So in a previous episode, I talked about what's banned in Commander and why. Now the ban list is kind of fluid. The Commander format has changed a lot since it first started. So cards that originally weren't banned became banned for certain reasons. But the same is true for cards that are no longer banned that used to be. So on this episode, I'm going to be talking about formerly banned cards in Commander. Or in other words, what cards were previously banned but have now been unbanned. Again, keep in mind that this format has evolved both in its rules and how it is played. What was once considered to be too powerful might not be today. Also, this list is probably not exhaustive. It's very hard to find information with old and even deleted web pages when it comes to these kind of things. The ones that I found to be a big help are on MTG Salvation and even a Wizards article by Stibbs, and you can find those in the description. Side note, hey Stibbs! Anyways, our story starts in November of 2006 because that's as far back as I can find things. Again, I mentioned that Commander has changed a lot since the very beginning of the format. And one of those big changes came at this time. Just a quick note, I wasn't actually playing Commander at this time. So these dates and changes come from the research that I did and not from my own personal experience. And again, there really isn't one official great source that has all this information, so I'm doing the best that I can. With all that said, let's jump back into it. November 2006, there's a rule change on Commander damage. At this point, the Commander damage was still 21 points. But the rule change is that now it's specifically 21 points of combat damage. So with this, 3 commanders were unbanned with Heartless Hidetsuko, Niv-Mizzet the Firemind, and Karavek the Merciless. Now with the research that I did, there was some confusion on Karavek on if it was ever actually banned. Now the timeline somewhat works with this because Karavek came out in Time Spiral, which came out in October 2006. Again, I wasn't there, but we'll just go with that it was banned and unbanned. Feel free to let me know that I'm wrong in the comments below. Regardless, each of these commanders obviously can deal damage outside of combat, so yeah, 21 points from any of them in a different way might be a bit too easy. But our next unbanning comes the next year in November 2007, and the card that was unbanned was the extremely powerful and incredibly broken Beacon of Immortality. Essentially, Beacon of Immortality doubles one player's life total, and you can recast it later because it shuffles back into your library. By today's standards, this is very much not a broken or ban-worthy card. My only thought as to why it might have been banned before is it made games drag on a bit too much. I'm not sure. Regardless, it's unbanned, so as of 2007, enjoy your Beacon of Immortality. And if you want to use it, I highly recommend it in combination with Tainted Remedy. So have fun with that, and let's move on to September of 2008. And the card that was unbanned then is Test of Endurance. Like Beacon of Unrest, it deals with life, not life gaining, but life winning. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you've got 50 or more life, you win the game. Initially, I can see how this would be considered to be problematic in Commander since you already start off with a very high life total. And I read a few different articles and I didn't get a definitive explanation for this, but essentially life totals might have been different when it initially started. I read that essentially it was 200 life divided by how many players you had. So if you're playing with 5 players, everyone starts off at 40, but if you're playing with 4, you start off with 50. Again, I cannot confirm this information, so if someone could comment to let me know if that's the case, I'd appreciate it. But anyways, Test of Endurance, now unbanned. Moving on to March of 2009, we've got multiple cards unbanned. And those cards are Crucible of Worlds and Rofellos Llanowar Emissary. Now, to my knowledge, Crucible of Worlds has been unbanned since then, but Rofellos is not. In fact, 1 year later, in June 2010, Rofellos was banned as a general. Back then, certain legendary creatures were banned as a commander, but not in the 99. So you couldn't use Rofellos as your commander, but you could use it in a green deck. Now, banned as a general or banned as commander isn't a thing anymore, and we'll get to that in a bit. But for now, let's stick with the same year and move on to September of 2009. Now, at this point, there was a rule change with the introduction of the Command Zone. Now, when I'm talking about the Command Zone, I don't mean the YouTube channel. That did not come out in 2009. The Command Zone is essentially the zone that you put your commander. From there, you can cast your commander, and your commander is basically impervious to anything there. But this actually wasn't always the case. Apparently, one of your opponents used to be able to interact with your commander even before you've cast them. And Rift Sweeper was a way to do that. When Rift Sweeper enters the battlefield, choose target face-up exiled card, its owner shuffles it into their library. Before September of 2009, a commander was considered to fit those requirements. So basically, if someone's commander's just hanging out and hasn't been cast yet, you could cast your Rift Sweeper and then take their commander and shuffle it into their library. That sounds like so much fun. Anyways, with the introduction of the command zone now being a thing, this kind of nixed that, and Rift Sweeper is now okay because it can't target your commander. So because of that, Rift Sweeper was unbanned. A third unbanning announcement actually comes at the very end of 2009 in December. The card that was unbanned was Grindstone. Now, many people might know that Grindstone comes with Painter's Servant, and actually at this point, Painter's Servant was banned. Essentially, with Painter's Servant and Mindstone, you can just mill someone out. It was considered to be a bit too powerful at one time, but might not be now. But we'll actually touch on Painter's Servant later, though. Regardless, let's move on to June of 2011. And with this, another card that's considered to be a combo piece was unbanned here. And that would be the unbanning of World Gorger Dragon. This is one of those cards that to a newer player might not see why this is so powerful. It's a 7/7 flying trampled dragon that only costs 6 mana, but it's got a perceived huge downside. Because when it comes into play, you exile all other permanents you control. So basically, in exchange for this 7/7, you lose everything else. But it also has, when it leaves the battlefield, to return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. So because of that, there are ways to abuse this and basically just get all your permanents to go away, and then come back untapped, and then go away, and then come back untapped, and so on and so forth. The most famous card that pairs with this that gives you that combo is Animate Dead. Anyways, powerful card, combo card, but again, a very specific combo, unbanned. But now let's move on to later in that year in September of 2011. And with this, we see the unbanning of Lion's Eye Diamond. It's a 0-mana artifact that you can sacrifice to get 3 mana of any one color. That sound familiar? But did I mention that there's a downside with this one though, with having to discard your hand? So yes, it's not Black Lotus, but it still can be very powerful in the right deck. But moving on, the next unbanning comes 1 year later in September of 2012. And the card that was unbanned then was Kakusho the Evening Star. But even though it was unbanned, it was only unbanned for the 99, it was still banned as a general or commander. Again, that distinction doesn't exist anymore, and you might know the answer to which direction this one went after that was taken away. But now let's move on to April of 2013. And another combo-centric card is unbanned with Staff of Domination. This one actually does quite a bit, so I'm gonna read it. By paying 1, you can untap Staff of Domination. By paying 2 and tapping it, you gain 1 life. By paying 3 and tapping it, you untap target creature. By paying 4 and tapping it, you tap target creature. By paying 5 and tapping it, you draw a card. Sorry again, that was a mouthful. This thing does a lot of things. Basically, the most notable ones are paying 1 to untapping it and paying 3 and tapping it to untap a creature. So essentially, if you've got a creature that can tap for 5 or more mana, you can generate infinite mana. You tap for 5, you use 3 of that to tap this and untap that creature, and then you pay that 1 to untap the staff. You can do this over and over again as many times as you want. At that point, you can then gain infinite life, tap down all your opponent's creatures, and then just draw your entire deck. Very powerful card, but again, some things that were considered broken when the format started aren't considered broken as years go on. But let's jump forward over a year and move on to September of 2014, where we get a huge change. And that rule change is that there is no longer banned as general or banned as commander. So basically, you can't just ban a card as a commander and keep it in the 99. Essentially, this rule change can alleviate some complexity and some confusion on if something is banned or not. If a commander is banned, it's just banned outright, not banned for one or the other. So with this change, the rules committee had to decide which commanders that were currently considered to be banned as a commander had to be fully unbanned or banned fully. And a commander that was considered now to be fully unbanned by them is Kakusho the Evening Star. And another card that was unbanned at this time, which is actually not a commander, is Metalworker. Metalworker can essentially tap for a ton of mana depending on how many artifacts you have in your hand. Again, very powerful, was considered to be broken at one point, but now considered to be okay. Now from 2014, we don't get any more unbannings until April of 2017. And the card that was unbanned at that time is the somewhat infamous Protean Hulk. Now I say somewhat infamous because it has been fine and casual, but in combination with Flash, it has been a dominating force in EDH. Basically, Protean Hulk tutors for creatures and puts them directly into play, and then you can just win from there in certain decks. I'm definitely oversimplifying this combo, but just know that it is extremely powerful. And because I don't play EDH, I'm probably not the best person to talk about what makes it so powerful and broken and busted in some people's opinions, so I'm just not going to. Anyways, our last unbanning comes in July of 2019. In this one, we actually mentioned before when we were talking about Grindstone with Painter's Servant. Now, in that other episode I mentioned earlier, I already talked about what cards are banned and why. And one of those cards on the ban list is Iona. Iona was banned at the exact same time that Painter's Servant was unbanned. Painter's Servant deals with everything becoming the same color, and Iona deals with shutting down a specific color. Coincidence? Probably not. But was Iona Painter's Servant just really ruining Commander in general? No. Again, just my opinion, but Painter's Servant probably should have been unbanned a long time ago. But especially when it comes to bannings and unbannings, everyone's got their own opinion on these kinds of things, and that's great. Not one person is right, and not one person is wrong because they either want something banned or unbanned. But now it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what one card you'd like to see unbanned and why. And make sure you're following us on social media for more updates and sneak peeks on future episodes. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons who help make this show possible. I truly couldn't do any of this without your support. If you want to support this channel directly, consider becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, including being able to vote on future commanders for deck techs. There are even tiers where you get your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you. You can check out all the Patreon tiers and rewards at patreon.com/commandersquarters. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about budget commander. So while you're at it, go ahead and check out some of our other types of episodes. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks again and have a good one.